Have you ever felt like the battles you fought were never truly over, until one moment gave you the strength to face your demons and find peace? This is my story. My name is Marcus Thompson, and at 36 years old, I discovered that returning home from war wasn't just about surviving. It was about healing myself and helping others heal too. I grew up in Billings, Montana, a small town nestled against the rugged beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Life there was simple, but far from easy. My father, James Thompson, worked long hours at a local auto repair shop, his hands calloused from years of turning wrenches. My mother, Evelyn, was a nurse who spent her days caring for patients at the county hospital. They were hardworking, people who believed in the value of service to family, to community, and to something greater than themselves. From an early age, they instilled in me the importance of integrity, loyalty, and resilience. Marcus, my dad would say, as he wiped grease-stained hands on a rag, a man's worth isn't measured by what he takes, but by what he gives. Those words stuck with me throughout my life, shaping the decisions I made and the person I became. As a child, I dreamed of adventure. I devoured books about explorers, soldiers, and pioneers, people who had faced challenges head-on and emerged victorious. I imagined myself as one of them, standing tall in the face of adversity, making sacrifices for the greater good. Little did I know how much those dreams would shape my reality and how heavy the cost of heroism could be. At 19, I enlisted in the U.S. Army, eager to prove myself and make a difference in the world. Basic training was grueling, but it forged bonds with fellow soldiers that felt unbreakable. We came from different backgrounds, farmers, factory, workers, college dropouts, but we shared a common goal: to serve our country and protect each other. Our drill sergeants pushed us to our limits, testing not just our physical endurance, but our mental toughness. I remember one particularly brutal exercise where we had to carry a stretcher loaded with sandbags across a muddy field. Halfway through, my legs burned and my lungs screamed for air. But when I looked around and saw my squad mates still pushing forward, I found the strength to keep going. That sense of camaraderie, the knowledge that we were in this together, became the foundation of everything we did. When we deployed to Afghanistan, those bonds were tested in ways I could never have imagined. The first time I heard the deafening roar of an explosion, the first time I saw a comrade fall, those moments changed me forever. War was not the heroic adventure I had envisioned. It was chaos, loss, and unimaginable pain. Each day brought new horrors, villages reduced to rubble, children orphaned, families torn apart. And yet, amidst the destruction, there were moments of humanity, acts of kindness, courage, and sacrifice that reminded me why we were there. I remember one mission vividly. It was late at night, and our unit was tasked with securing a village, suspected of harboring enemy fighters. As we moved cautiously through narrow streets, I noticed a young girl peeking out from behind a crumbling wall. Her eyes were wide with fear, but she didn't run. Instead, she held out a loaf of bread, offering it to us. In that moment, I saw not an enemy, but a child caught in the crossfire of a war she didn't choose. I took the bread, nodding to her silently, and we moved on. That image stayed with me, a reminder that even in the darkest places, light can still exist. For 5 long years, I served on the front lines, witnessing things no human should endure. I tried to stay focused on the mission, to push aside the guilt and fear that gnawed at me every day. But the weight of it all, the lives lost, the families shattered, the destruction we left in our wake, slowly ate away at my soul. By the time I returned home, I was a shadow of the man I used to be. When I stepped off the plane in Helena, Montana, I expected to feel relief, to finally breathe freely again. Instead, I felt suffocated. The quiet streets, the friendly faces, They only reminded me of how out of place I felt. People would ask, "How are you doing?" expecting a simple answer. But how could I explain the nightmares, the flashbacks, the constant feeling of being on edge? How could I tell them that I didn't recognize myself anymore? At first, I tried to bury my pain. I threw myself into work, taking odd jobs around town to keep busy. I avoided talking about my experiences, convinced that no one would understand. My family tried to help, but their well-meaning questions only made me withdraw further. "You're safe now," my mom would say, her voice filled with concern. "Why can't you let it go?" But letting go wasn't that simple. The memories haunted me, vivid and relentless. One night, during a particularly bad episode, I found myself sitting on the floor of my apartment, clutching a photo of my squad. Their faces stared back at me, accusing me of surviving when they hadn't. I wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something, but instead, I sat there, frozen, unable to move. It wasn't until I met Rachel Carter, a counselor specializing in PTSD, that I began to confront the truth. She ran a support group for veterans in Missoula, Montana, and encouraged me to attend. At first, I resisted. What good would it do to sit in a room full of strangers and talk about things I couldn't change? But Rachel persisted, reminding me that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about finding a way to live with the scars. Reluctantly, I showed up to my first meeting. The room was small and dimly lit, with mismatched chairs arranged in a circle. A few people glanced at me as I entered, but most kept their eyes down, avoiding contact. For the first hour, no one spoke. Finally, a man named James broke the silence. He talked about losing his best friend in Iraq, about the guilt he carried for surviving. As he spoke, I felt something stir inside me, a flicker of recognition, a sense that I wasn't alone. Over time, I began to open up. I shared stories about my time in Afghanistan, about the friends I had lost and the battles I had fought. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the words caught in my throat, when the memories threatened to overwhelm me. But each time I spoke, I felt a little lighter, a little freer. The other veterans listened without judgment, offering support and understanding in a way that no one else could. Through the group, I also learned coping strategies to manage my symptoms. Rachel taught us breathing exercises, mindfulness techniques, and journaling prompts to process our emotions. Slowly but surely, I began to regain control of my life. I started exercising again, running miles through the hills near my hometown. The physical exertion helped clear my mind, giving me space to think and reflect. Healing wasn't just about managing my own pain. It was about using my experiences to help others. One day, during a group session, Rachel suggested that I consider volunteering at a local veterans center. "You've been through so much, Marcus," she said gently. "Your story could inspire someone else to take that first step toward healing." Her words stayed with me. For weeks, I debated whether I was ready to take on such a responsibility. Could I really make a difference? Did I have anything valuable to offer? Eventually, I decided to give it a try. I started small, organizing events and leading workshops for veterans struggling with PTSD. To my surprise, people responded positively. They appreciated my honesty, my willingness to share my struggles and my triumphs. As I became more involved, I realized that my purpose extended beyond just helping veterans. I wanted to create a space where anyone affected by trauma, whether from war, abuse, or personal tragedy, could find support and healing. With Rachel's guidance, I founded an organization called Battle Within, a name that reflected my journey of confronting inner demons and fostering resilience. Through the organization, I provided resources, counseling, and peer support to individuals navigating similar challenges. I also launched educational programs to teach communities about trauma-informed care, ensuring that everyone had access to the tools they needed to thrive. One of the people I helped was Ethan Brooks, a Marine Corps veteran from Boise, Idaho, who had struggled with addiction after returning home. When I first met him, he was angry and withdrawn, convinced that no one understood what he was going through. Together, we worked to address the root causes of his pain, connecting him with therapy, rehabilitation programs, and a supportive network of peers. Watching him rebuild his life and reconnect with his family filled me with pride, not just for his achievements, but for the example he set for others. Another individual, Sarah Mitchell, shared a story eerily similar to mine. Her husband, a Navy SEAL, had taken his own life after battling severe PTSD. When she learned about Battle Within, she reached out for support. Together, we helped her navigate her grief, honor her husband's memory, and advocate for better mental health resources for military families. Her gratitude reinforced my belief that the work we were doing was making a difference, not just for individuals, but for entire communities. As Battle Within grew, so did my sense of purpose. I realized that my trauma, while devastating, had given me a gift, the opportunity to turn pain into action and create something meaningful. By sharing my story, I was able to honor the sacrifices of my fallen comrades and ensure that their legacies lived on. And while I'll never fully understand why I survived when so many others didn't, I've come to accept that their sacrifices weren't in vain. They gave me a second chance, a chance to live, to love, and to serve once again. If you're watching this and feeling lost, remember, your pain doesn't define you. You have the power to turn it into purpose, to create something beautiful out of something broken. If this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more inspiring stories, and let's rewrite our legacies together. Sometimes I think about the young girl in Afghanistan, the one who offered me a loaf of bread in the middle of a war zone. I wonder where she is now, if she's safe, if she remembers me the way I remember her. Her act of kindness was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope, and that hope is often carried by the smallest gestures. Sometimes I think about my squad, too, the ones who didn't make it home. I carry their names with me everywhere I go, etched into my heart like scars that will never fade. I owe them everything. They taught me about brotherhood, sacrifice, and resilience, and though they're gone, their lessons live on in everything I do. Running the organization isn't easy. There are days when the weight of so many stories threatens to crush me, when the pain of others feels like it's seeping into my own soul. But then I remind myself of why I started this journey. It's not just about me, it's about them. It's about creating a world where no one has to suffer in silence, where every veteran, every survivor, every person carrying the weight of trauma knows they are not alone. I've learned that healing isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and often painful. But it's also transformative. By sharing our stories, supporting one another, and taking steps toward change, we can reclaim our power and rewrite our narratives. That realization became the foundation of Battle Within, not just as an organization, but as a movement. Looking back, I realized that the battlefield didn't just leave me a legacy of scars. It gave me the tools to transform them into something meaningful. My experiences forced me to confront truths I might otherwise have avoided, pushing me to grow in ways I never imagined. And while I'll never fully understand why I survived when so many others didn't, I've come to accept that their sacrifices weren't in vain. They gave me a second chance, a chance to live, to love, and to serve once again. Through Battle Within, I've learned that power isn't about control or revenge. It's about creating opportunities for others to thrive. It's about using your pain to fuel positive change, to lift others up when they feel like they can't stand on their own. And it's about recognizing that, no matter how broken you feel, you have the ability to rebuild not just your life, but the lives of those around you. Sometimes, when I'm running through the hills near my hometown, I pause and look out. At the horizon, the vast expanse of sky and earth stretches endlessly before me. In those moments, I feel a sense of peace, a quiet understanding that life is both fragile and resilient, that even after the darkest storms, the sun will rise again, and that no matter how far we fall, we always have the power to rise. The journey hasn't been easy, and I know it never will be. There are still nights when the memories come flooding back, when the faces of my fallen comrades appear in my dreams, their voices calling out to me. But I've learned to carry those memories with grace, to let them guide me rather than consume me. I've learned that healing isn't about erasing the past, it's about integrating it into who you are, allowing it to shape you in ways that make you stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. One of the most profound lessons I've learned is the importance of connection. When I first returned home, I felt isolated, as though no one could possibly understand what I had been through. But through battle within, I've discovered that we are all connected by our shared humanity. Whether it's a veteran struggling with PTSD, a survivor of domestic violence, or someone grieving the loss of a loved one, we all carry pain and we all have the capacity to heal. By coming together, by sharing our stories and supporting one another, we can create a ripple effect of healing that extends far beyond ourselves. I've also learned the value of vulnerability. For so long, I tried to hide my pain, to pretend that I was okay when I wasn't. But it wasn't until I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to open up about my struggles, that I began to truly heal. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's strength. It takes courage to admit that you're hurting, to ask for help, to let others see you at your most raw and unfiltered. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. Another lesson I've learned is the importance of purpose. After returning home, I felt lost, as though I no longer had a reason to get up in the morning. But through battle within, I found a new sense of purpose, one that gave my life meaning and direction. Purpose doesn't have to be grand or extraordinary. It can be as simple as making someone smile, lending a listening ear, or showing up when it matters most. What matters is that you're contributing to something larger than yourself, leaving the world a little better than you found it. As battle within continues to grow, I'm constantly inspired by the resilience and strength of the people I meet. I've seen veterans who once felt hopeless find their footing again, rebuilding their lives and reconnecting with their families. I've seen survivors of trauma discover their own inner power, transforming their pain into purpose. And I've seen communities come together to support one another, proving that even in the face of adversity, there is hope. One of the most rewarding aspects of this journey has been watching others step into their own power. Many of the people I've worked with have gone on to become leaders in their own right, advocating for change and inspiring others to do the same. It's a reminder that healing is not just an individual journey, it's a collective one. We heal together, or we don't heal at all. Of course, there are still challenges. There are days when the work feels overwhelming, when the weight of so many stories threatens to pull me under. But I've learned to lean into those moments, to let them remind me of why I started this journey in the first place. I've learned to celebrate the small victories, to find joy in the progress, however incremental it may be. And I've learned to trust the process, knowing that healing is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this: you are not alone. No matter how dark things may seem, no matter how broken you feel, there is always hope. There is always a way forward. And you are stronger than you know. If you're struggling, reach out. Talk to someone you trust, seek professional help, or join a support group. You don't have to face your battles alone. And if you're watching this and feeling inspired, I encourage you to take that inspiration and turn it into action. Whether it's volunteering, donating, or simply being there for someone in need, every act of kindness makes a difference. Together, we can create a world where no one has to suffer in silence, where everyone has the opportunity to heal and thrive. So, if this story resonates with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more inspiring stories, and let's rewrite our legacies together. Because the truth is, we all have the power to rise. We all have the power to heal. And we all have the power to make a difference.